Once upon a time, stories of fantasy. People suffering with OCD aren't living a fantasy. Even though there are a lot of myths that go around obsessive compulsive disorder, their stories are real. These are stories from the OCD side. Real people, real stories, brought to you by FamilyOCD.com and InvisibleWheelchair.com. We want your story. Go to InvisibleWheelchair.com and contact us to tell us your story here. OCD is real. OCD treatments are real. OCD recovery is real. And so are these stories. Welcome to the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast, Stories from the OCD Side. Today we're doing something a little different. I want to introduce to you Gina and I's latest podcast adventure. It's called Focused Healthy Family Podcast. Now, this is a place of the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast where we really talk about stories, people telling the story of their OCD. And in a way, that's still what's going on, because our story as a family, Gina and I, is about OCD and having to deal with it with two of our kids. So I felt it was good to introduce this to you, because what we do in the family podcast, the Focused Healthy Family Podcast, is really we're focusing on parenting and family issues, and we really talk a lot about the anxiety, having to deal with that kind of factor. In the podcast, we talk about parenting and family issues of all different sorts. We try to take a different angle on it. We try to look at it differently, because I believe we as parents, we do parenting different than what might be considered the norm of parenting. And so we're trying to bring that to our podcast. In it, we tell stories. We love to tell stories to begin every podcast, a story that fits the topic we're going to talk about. Because we got a gazillion different stories about different things going on. We're even starting to do, set up right now, interviews with parents, professionals, and anybody that really works with or deals with parenting and family issues and problems and things like that. We want to get them on air. So we decided this. We've been talking about it for a long time, of wanting to do one differently about parenting, about families. And so this is our attempt anyway, and we've already begun. We've got some going. In fact, I'll mention right off the bat, you can go to FocusedHealthyFamilyPodcast.com. So focused with an ED, healthyfamily.com. FocusedHealthyFamilyPodcast.com. And what I want to do now is I want to play some clips from some of the podcasts that we've done to give you a feel of what it's like.
Welcome to Don and Gina's Focused Healthy Family Podcast.
We thought we'd tell some stories today. Wanted to come up with a story talking about just getting to know us.
So, meet the Grotofs.
So we're going to tell the story now of our little trip across the world, it seemed like. It felt like it.
We did do one big undertaking, though. Don's from St. Louis, and I'm from Pennsylvania. At the time, my parents and my brothers still lived up in the Allentown, Pennsylvania area. And we used to alternate going to families at the holidays. And we decided we would go visit both of them.
With a 6-month-old, I guess. 6-week-old, yes.
He was born November 10th, 1997. And so we decided for Christmas, your family celebrates on Christmas Eve. So we bundled up in the car and made the trek from Charlotte to St. Louis, which is, I think, over
It's-
700 miles.
Yes.
And
It's a good 14-hour drive, something like that.
yeah, I remember it used to take us far less than having a child. Somehow we had a baby who slept, and we made it all the way out there. And your brother was great. He gave us his bedroom, and we had the like a porta crib for him to sleep in. And we spent just a couple days in St. Louis visiting with the family.
But we left on Christmas
Day. We packed up because I remember we drove then from St. Louis to eastern Pennsylvania.
And trying to find a restaurant.
Yeah, no, we wound up at a Chinese restaurant because that was the only
Some out of Christmas story almost,
the only thing open on Christmas Day.
Fa ra 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 ra.
So here we are, new parents, with one child sleeping in the back of the car, imagining what life would be like down the road.
And it's kind of like that Nationwide commercial.
I love that commercial.
Life comes at you fast. The pregnant mother and the ultrasound, and they look in, and there's a full-size person. That was one of them.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of the one where they're driving along and their baby is in the car seat, and they look back at the baby, and they drive along some more, and then they look back, and
he's a full-grown.
And he's a grown kid in the same baby car seat. I think they might do it in a couple stages, but kind of, that idea, it does happen fast. Our kids are now 12, 19, and 23, so that little baby boy is...
And we recently had them all in the car when we were heading up for going, I think, when we went on vacation. And they did a little bit of arguing, so we got your dream,
Well, we've had many road trips over the past 23 years with...
So it was a Saturday night, and pretty average Saturday night. My daughter had a friend over for a sleepover. They were having a lot of fun. She was there for part of the day, and you could always hear giggling and laughing coming from their room. Until that night, and I seem to remember it was about 9 o'clock. My daughter had gone into the bathroom, I guess to use the bathroom or to clean up or something. And something changed. Because she came out, and she was not that fun-loving little girl anymore. She was very anxious. And she came downstairs, and I remember her whispering into Gina's ear. And I didn't know what they were saying. I couldn't hear it, but I did hear Gina say, "What do you mean you can't go into your room?" And they went upstairs, and I followed them up there, and come to find out that for some reason, in the time that she went into the bathroom, the room had become dirty to her. And I'm not just talking about dirt, because we're a fairly typical family. We have dust bunnies under couches and beds and things, and typical dirt that you'd find. But this was different. And she described to me later on, not that night, but later on, years later, that it was hard to describe the dirt. It felt gritty to her. It was just a dirty sense to it that she couldn't walk in the room. And the toughest part about it was her friend was still in the room, and that scared her even more than not being able to go in the room, was how are we going to get her out? And we had a hard time with that. I can remember myself thinking, what is it? This isn't right. There's something wrong with this. And really thinking that, she probably just isn't feeling well. She probably ate something. But what we had to do, because we could not get her back in the room, Gina went around finding rugs, little throw rugs, and we gathered up as many as we could find to make a path into the room. 1, to get her friend out, and 2, just to get her to bed. And it took quite a bit to get her to bed that night. But we did get her to bed, and we kind of had that sense that it was just, she was just off that night. Little did we know what was to come for that. and what it was going to turn into. And that's really our topic for today, talking about why we're here doing what we're doing. So that night, 9 o'clock, we're getting ready for bed, things going well, and here comes my oldest. Dad, whatever happened to that mouse that was going up in the back of the oven? And I'm like, no, don't. I'm like, okay, no, just be quiet, But no, that wasn't, as much as I tried, I couldn't get him to stop talking about that mouse in the back of the, and as we were standing in front of the stove with my daughter and my youngest daughter. And my middle daughter immediately picked up, mouse in the house, mouse, oh my God. And she started going a little bit, the rocket of anxiety started taking off. And of course, now my oldest couldn't stop there as much as I tried to stay, be quiet, shut up, we'll talk about that later. But Dad, you don't understand. That mouse could chew through the wires and cause now, think about what that next word could be here and what it could do. At that point, I wanted to just kind of go across the room going, no, and stopping him from saying the next word, which was fire.
Well, when you're on an airplane, they always say, in the event of emergency, put your oxygen mask on first before you put your oxygen mask on of the person next to you. Don's laughing at me because I said how I heard someone else on a podcast saying that, and I went, wait, that's my thing. Obviously, I'm not the first person to have come up with it, but it feels like I am. And the idea is that we got to take care of ourselves in order to take care of other people.
We also have to understand ourselves and be conscious about what's going on inside for us. And we start there as parents.
So part of our program, we'll have so many tapping sessions, and we sit down and we say we can divide these up among family members, but usually you start with the mom. She's usually the most willing to come in and tap, right? And so you're working through, and a lot of times they're pretty aware that there's their own things going on, right? So as we're working with families, they realize, okay, I got a lot of stuff going on, and what's going on with me is affecting the function of the whole family. When I'm working with a family and doing the tapping work, if I can get the parents' energy to change, if I can get clarity of their mind and getting them straight with themselves, it has an effect, one, on the other child, plus it makes it easier to, because one of the things that people have a hard time understanding is that, we share energy. Mm-hmm. Energy flows between us, and what I tell parents a lot of times is you can realize this by the fact of you come home sometimes, like I know myself, sometimes terrible road rage, but you just get intense and angry at something that happened on the road. You come into the house, and within probably 5-10 minutes sometimes the whole house takes on that same energy. So we share energy between us, and so if we can get ourselves in a better energy place, it really has an effect on the family. So that's the podcast clips that you got a taste of. If you want to check it out, again, you go to focusedhealthyfamilypodcast.com. You can also find it on our website, focusedhealthyfamily.com. And again,
We would love any help. If you have a wonderful story you want to tell, or you're a professional that works with families or works with parenting, we want to have you on the show. We want to interview you. Or if you have a subject or a topic that you'd like to hear, you can leave it on the comments on the Focused Healthy Family Podcast.com website. You can also leave it here on the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast also. You can leave comments here. We'll get either one. The Invisible Wheelchair Podcast will continue. It's not going to stop, at least not for the foreseeable future, because there's still probably a lot of people and subjects that I want to cover in this. So look for that. And I'll remind you too, if you have a story for the Invisible Wheelchair about your OCD or your anxiety, we'd love to have that and hear from you on that. So thank you for listening today. I hope you'll check out the FocusedHealthyFamilyPodcast.com to see what that sounds like. You can hear Gina and I telling our stories and talking. So thank you for taking the time today.